Greetings and welcome once again to my new calculus channel. My name is John Gabriel. So I'm going to be talking about a very special topic again today, and that topic is about the topic of being a crank. And I'm going to do it in two ways. I'm going to give you some historical background and then have a little chat with ChatGPT. So it's going to be interesting. And I have to be very careful here because I'm talking about two live people, one who was a very influential judge and the other one a very influential lawyer. So stay tuned. Now, Richard Posner resided over a case called Dudley versus Lilworth. Okay, and you can look that up in your ChatGPT or whatever. Let's ask ChatGPT, what is the case Dudley versus Lilworth, Judge Posner about? Okay, so it's a dispute over property rights and nuisance. Nope, it's not that. No, I meant the one about crank defamation. Right, let's just see, maybe that's one. Okay, so this is the one. So it says the case Dudley versus Lilworth involving Judge Posner related to defamation by a crank. And it deals with the limits of defamation law. Okay, so the plaintiff Dudley claimed defamation by the defendant, who was Lilworth, based on statements that were odd or eccentric, but allegedly harmful. Actually, they were harmful. But Posner analyzed whether the statements could reasonably be understood as defamatory or if they were protected as opinions on nonsensical claims not taken seriously by a reasonable person. And the ruling highlighted that for a defamation, the statement must be a false statement of fact that harms reputation, not mere bizarre or absurd claims. And the decision emphasized protecting free speech, especially when the audience would not interpret the statement as a factual assertion. Okay, so now the problem with this guy is that, well, not with this guy, with this decision is that calling somebody a crank is pejorative. Okay, it doesn't matter whether that person is right or wrong. There is a way to say to somebody who's making absurd claims that they're right or wrong. If you want to tell them they're wrong, you could simply just do that. You could say, hey, you know what? I think you're talking nonsense. Or that's absurd. Or my favorite one, I've never heard such bullshit in all my life. Okay? So there are many ways to tell a person that you don't agree with them. But of course, in the mainstream, there is an agenda. It's an agenda to protect what they believe in. So basically, you're a crank if you don't believe what we believe. Okay? And you're a crank if you do not think along the same lines as what we think. Okay? They don't even care to investigate what you have to say. If anything you say resides outside of their echo fart chamber, you're a crank. Okay? So, this is what allows deceptive and evil people, like the one you see in front of you, to libel great mathematicians such as myself, okay, and to call them cranks, and to go on sites like Reddit and Quora and Wikipedia and publish a whole lot of crap that doesn't refute anything I say. All it says is I'm a crank because I say that what they're thinking is a load of bullshit. And guess what? I still say it. Mainstream mathematics has so many flaws, it's almost approaching an Aleph number to use their bullshit terminology. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this first guy who made the ruling. So he was an American legal scholar, retired. I've got to be very careful what I say now because he's still alive. And and he is of a special descent. He's a very special person. These people think that they have higher IQs than others when, in fact, at Ellis Island, by the way, they did the worst in IQ tests. They couldn't solve a little face puzzle. They were the worst out of all the nationalities. Oh, and guess what? I have this DNA inside me too, Ashkenazi. Okay, so not totally, thank goodness, but I do have, well, enough of it. Let's say, almost 10%. Now, um, let's look at some of his views. Okay, so he really has some extraordinary views, and you can read it on Wikipedia. Please do yourself and read it, because his views, as far as I'm concerned, are totally absurd. Okay, and his reasoning is non-existent. But yet he was a Seventh Circuit judge in the United States. Okay, and um, so he argues for something. Let's look at race and public education. This is interesting. He says the average white IQ is, of course, 100, and the Asian, like the Jewish, almost one standard deviation higher. Um, that was not the case when immigrants were arriving at Ellis Island, by the way, but of course, Wikipedia doesn't include that. It would have this ethnicity look in a bad light. And so obviously this would make him seem like a racist, right? Because it's totally untrue. First of all, IQ is not scientific. It's part of a pseudoscience called psychology. Okay, but pseudosciences are very useful to this ethnicity because they can work it to whatever ways they need to benefit them. Okay, and I'll let you make your own decisions about that. I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but they can work it to their advantage. Here's what he has to say on same-sex marriage. He says basically uh, that prohibitions against gay marriage were rationally justified, and also that basically it was tradition not to allow blacks to marry whites, etc., etc. He also had some ideas on torture, and guess who appears in his book? This guy here who's been denied pierogi. This beautiful looking man, this absolutely drop dead, gorgeous, handsome man over here. Okay, and his entries, yeah, please read his latest skirmish uh, with a farm vendor. I have so much to say on that, but I can't because there's no way I can speak on that without getting myself into trouble. So I won't say anything. But as you can see, these people don't care about truth, okay? They don't even care about the law. It's the same with mainstream mathematicians. And if you look at the case with Dudley versus Lilworth, um, Dudley was called, or the other way, yeah, Dudley was called a crank because his views were odd or eccentric. But um, even if they were odd or eccentric, is besides the point. The point is he was called by the pejorative crank. Do you know what that can do to your reputation? Well, I do. I've been called a crank, and in my case, it's so unfair. It's so evil. It's so despicably hypocritical, false, misguided, and just a blatant lie. Okay? And if you study my work, you'll see that I'm none of the things I say, and that nowhere on Reddit has anything I've ever said been refuted. But even the AIs now refer to Wikipedia, that big load of crap, with Quora, another big load of crap, and all those sites for their views. Okay, so I mean, honestly, when you've got garbage in, you're gonna have garbage out, right? So I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to check out my claims. Checking out my claim doesn't mean you doing nothing and calling me a crank because you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay? It means you need to study. It means you need to go to the materials I tell you. The articles are right. Read them and verify that the claims I make are true or false if you think. Then, and only then, if you can spot an error in what I say, can you call me a crank. Till then, you cannot call me a crank. For example, some idiot said, not one, but quite a few on sci.math. Don Redmond, another fool from. If you look at Gabriel's list on sci.math, there were 6 brave enough idiots to put their names in. One of them says, I didn't even bother to look at it. That was Don Redmond. And I think he might even be a psychologist. He says, but I think it's garbage. Um, so you have to look at these people and see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Do not call somebody a crank when you yourself suffer from a disease called incurable Dunning-Kruger. In other words, just because your teacher told you that you're a very smart student and that you obtained A's and that your IQ is above 140 and that shit, that's all garbage. Okay? You are known by your words. So watch your words, you bastards. And I call the majority of you bastards because that's what you are. You're evil people. I mean, really evil people. You do not call somebody a crank who is revealing to you knowledge that you asswipes wouldn't wouldn't realize, even if you were to live thousands of years. And you ask, what evidence do I have of that? Okay, well, look at my articles and you'll see the evidence. And then you'll shut your sewer smelling mouths, won't you? Okay, so I think I've said enough. If you're not already a subscriber, please become a subscriber to my channel. I earn very little in retirement benefits. In fact, if I were in the US, I'd be on the streets because I wouldn't have enough money to rent a room. Yep, that means no food, nothing. And I'm not even able to work full time. Nobody would hire me because of all the libel. Even though I'm the best mathematician alive today. Nobody would hire me because of those things. So yes, I've had a pretty rotten deal because of people like this. People like this guy here, like this individual, and like this guy here, right? And they're lauded. They even have a Wikipedia article after them. Do you see a Wikipedia article on the new calculus? Of course you won't, because the new calculus is outside of the fart echo chamber of the mainstream. Do you see an article on the flaws in mainstream academics? No, you will not, because they don't believe there are any flaws, and they believe that they know everything. So once you reach a point like that where all knowledge is established, nothing is questionable anymore, you don't get any learning, you don't get any advancement. If you just look at the past 200 years in mainstream mathematics, it's not even mathematics anymore. It's group theory, topology, it's real analysis. None of that is mathematics. Set theory is not mathematics. I'm John Gabriel, and this is a new calculus channel. Click like, subscribe, and join me again for a next most interesting episode